I often get the question, is it worth it to still get into helium mining, especially on some of my older videos? I've been mining helium for around 8 months, so I understand the ebbs and flows, the pros, the cons. I'm not trying to say no matter what, you should be buying a helium miner. That doesn't make sense. It depends on a lot of things. And in this video, we're gonna take a realistic approach to whether or not it makes sense to get into helium mining. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I made this Excel spreadsheet to help me understand the profitability of helium mining, putting in all the results so far. We have 7 months of profit coming in, and it's been around $450 in total. Now, when I purchased it, I bought the base unit, the Bobcat 300, bought an Ethernet cable, and then a new antenna. My total upfront is around $610. Of the $610 that I've spent, I've recouped around $450. I'm expecting in a few months to, maybe 5 months, I'll break even, which honestly is still really good. You're talking about a pretty much 100% ROI within 12 months. From a traditional standpoint, that's really solid. But you don't really care about that if you're watching it as a brand new person. Is it still worth it? So I'm going to use a couple of assumptions, right? That you're buying a Bobcat 300 after taxes, everything, $526, but you're not buying all the extra things. If I look at my own earnings, I'm making around 0.04 helium per day, right? Sounds pretty low. The average earnings on the network is around 0.097, and this is a big factor. The amount of helium that you're able to generate in your area will determine whether or not it's a better ROI. If you're wondering, how the heck am I supposed to know what my average earnings would be? You just go to the Helium Explorer, click into the area that you're in, and just see what other helium miners are making. And for example, I'm just picking these random ones. This helium miner is making 141, 176. If you're going to set up a miner in this hex right here, you can assume that's kind of what you'd expect for just a average setup. And that's how you can base your assumptions to figure out what's an acceptable ROI. And so for this example, we're going to initially start with the average earnings and then kind of play with the numbers. At the current price of helium, which is around 21, you're talking about a projected profit of around $61 in a month if you're able to hit those numbers. The thing is with helium, as more miners come online, the profitability of everyone goes down, especially if the price of helium doesn't change. What I looked at is the past 30 days, and I saw that the amount of online hotspots has increased around 10%. Up here in the production factor, what I did is said your earnings or your production is going to go down around 10% every month, and then going forward. Over time, if the price of helium stays the same, but your production is going down, the amount of profits that you're going to make from the helium miner will also go down. After 12 months, if you have those average earnings and the price of helium doesn't change at all, you're talking about electricity costs, which is negligible, $1 per month, and you're not paying anything for data overages. That's something to pay attention to. If you have unlimited, then you don't really have to worry about that as much. Factoring that all in, 82% ROI, which if I look at it from a traditional standpoint, 82% is something that I'm still willing to do. I think the important takeaway here is, what is it worth for you to set all this stuff up? If your ROI on this whole project is 10%, that's where you have to start asking yourself, is it worth it to go through all the hassle of buying the miner, setting it up, dealing with troubleshooting, all that stuff? We're talking about after 12 months making an extra $400 a year. That's based on the average numbers. If you're not okay with that, that's where you would say it's not worth it. That's kind of middle of the ground conservative estimates, because we're assuming no price change in helium, and then we are expecting the production and the amount of helium that you're mining to go down 10% every month, basically forever. The price of helium has to go up in order for the profitability to stay elevated. The question is, where's the equilibrium? 100% ROI per year, right? 12 months, make all your money back and you still have the miner? Or are we talking about racing towards 10%, where you look at that and say, well, why do this when I can invest in some company like HNT and get an 8% dividend, and I literally click a button, don't have to do any of the setup, and I don't have to worry about figuring all this cryptocurrency stuff out, for the layman person that is trying to get into helium mining. Going back to this, if your earnings are starting off much lower than the average, let's say you're in my spot where the earnings themselves are 1.34 for 30 days, you're looking at a 1-year ROI from this point, if I had just started now, around 38%. And this is kind of my cutoff area. Anything over 30%, I think, is a really good return from a traditional standpoint. But there is some setup, and you are talking about only making around, 15, 20 bucks. Is it even worth it if you're spending more than like 10 seconds on the project. For me, if I'm making like $5 a month on it, then I wouldn't even get involved. Honestly speaking, it's not worth it for me to set up everything and then make $5 to cover some McDoubles at McDonald's. So I would say if you're watching other YouTubers still hype up Helium like it is a money printing machine, I'd be a little cautious. I think the heydays of making $2,000 per month from your Helium miner is not coming back. It's too well known now. That was early on an investment, a new concept, excitement about the project. The price of Helium skyrocketed, and this was before the halving, where the amount of Helium that was being distributed was much higher. Something else to keep in mind is the lead time if you ordered today. A lot of these miners are still on back order, so if you go to a website and it says it's going to take a year, you should also factor that into your potential ROI and earnings. I know this may be disappointing for some that are maybe just getting their miner, but I'm trying to be realistic with my projections, if I would get involved or not. At this point right now, as I'm making this video, if the monthly amount was $4 a month, I probably wouldn't be getting involved. And personally, at that point, I would probably sell my miner to someone else that had average earnings, whereas my own miner has below average earnings based on my location in a big city. It's a little bit more saturated, but we're not there yet, so we'll see what happens. If you are bullish on Helium and you think the price of Helium is going to rise and the yield at whatever point you're thinking about buying is 5, 10, 20%, it may make more sense to actually just buy the Helium with the amount that you would have paid for the miner in order to get a faster payback. So we haven't reached that point yet. The yield is still pretty good on the miner, but definitely something to consider as that yield percentage comes down over time. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that like button, as well as consider subscribing to Major Rule, where we talk cryptocurrency, anything to do with money. Thanks guys for watching, and have a great day.